How does the humidity temperature and negative pressure controller works? The humidity, temperature, and negative pressure controller is a phase controller for one exhaust fan and one intake fan. You can post 4 settings on 4 knobs: temperature, humidity, minimum speed, and negative pressure setting. The temperature range is from 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. The humidity range is from 30% to 100% relative humidity. The minimum speed setting from off position jumps to 20% and is variable up to 100% speed. And the negative pressure setting from 100% to -50% intake fan speed. On the temperature setting knob you set the desired temperature, for example 24 degrees Celsius. On the humidity setting knob you set the desired humidity, for example 60% relative humidity. On the third knob you set the minimum speed of the intake fan, which should never be undercut during the regulation, for example we set this on 20%. At the fourth knob you set the negative pressure setting of the outtake fan, for example -20%. The hysteresis is a fixed value of 2 degrees Celsius and 10% relative humidity. The hysteresis is the controlling range of the fan speed according to the temperature or the humidity. In this 2 degrees Celsius the fan speed will change from the lowest point given from the minimum speed setting, to the highest point of the regulation 100% of the fan speed depending on the measured temperature. The same happens with the humidity hysteresis. In this 10% relative humidity, the fan speed will change from the lowest point given from the minimum speed setting, to the highest point of the regulation 100% of the fan speed depending on the measured humidity. The negative pressure reduces the speed of the outtake fan, during the regulation of the controller. It works synchronous with the intake fan. We set -50% negative pressure. This means, now the intake fan runs 50% less than the outtake fan. If the outtake fan is on 100%, the intake fan have 50% fan speed. If the outtake fan is on 80%, the intake fan have 40% fan speed. And etc. Once the temperature and humidity are below their set values, the intake fan switches off, while the outtake fan runs on its set minimum speed setting. Between temperature and humidity, the stronger signal is always the one which commands the fans. As long as the measured temperature on the probe is below 24 degrees Celsius, the controller keeps your fan working on 20% speed which comes from the minimum speed setting. When the temperature rise and exceed the 24 degrees Celsius, the fan's speed starts to increase according to the temperature in the next 2 degrees Celsius. Up to 100% fan speed till 26 degrees Celsius. Now as higher the fan speed is, and more fresh and cold air is circulating in the room, the measured temperature will decrease again and the fans will slow down. We call this auto-balancing of the airflow according to the temperature. The same happens with the humidity. If the measured humidity at the probe is below 60% relative humidity, the controller keeps your fan working on 20% speed which comes from the minimum speed setting. When the humidity rise and exceed 60% relative humidity, the fans start to increase, according to the measured humidity in the next 10% humidity hysteresis, up to 100% fan speed, till 70% relative humidity. Now as higher the fan speed is and more fresh and dry air is circulating in the room, the measured humidity will decrease again, and the fans will slow down. We call this auto-balancing of the airflow according to the humidity. The minimum speed setting sets the desired minimum speed on the outtake fan. It is the strongest setting and always overdrives the temperature and humidity setting. If you set the minimum speed setting to off position, The fans will stop working when the measured temperature and humidity are below their set values. The minimum speed setting have a 20% infinitely start-up peak, to give enough power to the outtake fan to run on low speed.